I realized a long time ago that every problem I've ever had in my life, or every challenge that I've had to overcome, it was largely either created or only made worse by either my or those people's around me, right? Emotional imbalance, emotional reaction. And it's quite an awakening realization when you come to think about it. So if I had one wish, I think for everybody, it would be that I would wish that your life could be completely filled with emotional regulation, right? Both for yourself and for everybody around you. And this that's not even what this video is about, right? And it's not like emotions are bad; they're not bad at all, but they can really get in the way. And how you feel about a certain situation can be a positive thing, right? You can be having fun and enjoy yourself and feel good in that moment. But when you put it in the context of your goals, how you feel can be to your detriment. And that's really what I wanted to talk about today is the whole motivation piece, right? There's a lot of motivational videos out there. There's a lot of people talking about motivation. And for me, there is absolutely no replacement for discipline whatsoever. But, how do you get to that point, right? I mean, if you think about it for a second, right? I mean, you probably felt this way too, right? You felt motivated to do something at some point in your life, right? You might be in the middle of a motivated moment right now, whether, you're whatever goal you're chasing, right? You're motivated to do it. And there is no replacement for discipline. But discipline doesn't feel good, right? You don't wake up one day and say, oh, I'm going to create a discipline plan, right? You wake up and you're like, man, I am going to go get it today. I am motivated. I am going to go chase my goals, all the things. And then what happens, right? It's that motivation slowly but surely starts to fade, right? And it's a shame because motivation feels good. You're filled with kind of a feeling of adrenaline, right? To go get your goals, right? You're motivated. You're like, yeah, let's go. And unfortunately, I think for most of us, it puts us in this cycle of starting and stopping and starting and stopping and restarting and stopping. And it's kind of like a hamster wheel that we get stuck on where our goals never quite get achieved. But yet, when you talk to somebody about discipline or you listen to somebody who's trying to start something new, you never hear them come out and say, oh man, I am ready to tackle this discipline, right? To get to my goals. It's very rare that you hear that. Right. So I don't know what the answer is for that. Right. I mean, we each of us get this bug psychologically that we want to go do something, better, more exciting, whether it's a temporary thing, whether it's changing habits completely, whether it's health, whether it's starting an online business, whether it's weight loss, whatever, gym habits, whatever it is. You will always hear people talking about, I'm motivated to start. But you never hear people talking about, I want to create a discipline plan, right? Because it's boring, frankly, right? The idea of that, it sounds like work, right? But motivation, it's like, man, I'm feeling it. I am going to go get it. And that's the problem. It's back to the emotions that I talked about at the very beginning of this video. Motivations are great. And if you use them in the right way, it's fantastic. But they can also absolutely derail you if you don't use them correctly in that moment. And I think, I would love to be able to give that as a gift to everybody to help people understand in that moment that motivation's awesome, but you've got to use it correctly. And if you use it to apply it to the energy needed for your goals, then your efforts are going to dissipate because that excitement that comes along with the motivation, which is emotion based, right, it's eventually going to fade off, right? Because emotion and discipline are two completely different things, but people do tend to get them confused because in the moment, you're super motivated, right? You're going to go, I'm going to do this thing. And then it starts to dissipate as your interest kind of wanes. And it's a real shame, right? But it puts us on this hamster wheel, right? Because we don't quite finish and we don't quite follow through. And there are multiple reasons for this, right? And there's many of the psychological principles that I talk about on my shorts channels. You'll be able to see what I'm getting at, right? They tie back to exactly this video. If you depend on motivation alone, you're never going to achieve your goals, ever, because the motivation is excitement. And by its very nature, it's going to make you want to continue. But then as the routine kicks in and it becomes less exciting, your effort starts to dissipate and then you lose motivation altogether and you're back to square one. And it's an awful thing. because the emotion behind motivation itself is exciting and it gets you going, right? And it can get you going, right? But what you need to do is you need to quickly change that to a state of discipline. And it's so important. So discipline is different how, right? It's making a commitment to yourself that you're going to keep every day or every other day or every week or whatever that schedule is going to look like for whatever goal you have. And you're writing a contract with yourself and you are not going to let yourself down. No matter what happens, rain or shine, you are going to do the thing that you said you were going to do. If it's going to the gym, you're going to go to the gym. If it's putting out content, you're going to go home from work and record a video. You know, if it's losing weight, I am going to focus on my next meal and make sure my next meal is good. And I'm going to take my eyes off the 50 pounds I need to lose or want to lose or whatever that is, right? It's breaking up your goals into small enough chunks that you already made the decision and you just act on it, right? And you take the emotion out of it completely. And so many people miss that, and it's a real shame. So what can we do about it, right? Motivation's awesome, but you absolutely cannot have a goal that is going to depend on you retaining motivation forever. You have to know how to turn that motivation into discipline. So how do you do that? Well, instead of waking up and saying, today I'm going to be motivated and I'm going to put all of that energy into starting the routines I need to achieve my goal, right? That's great. You can do that, but you lose interest in that, right? That's what goes wrong for most people, is that motivation wanes and you find yourself just losing interest, right? But now discipline is different. So what if you were to wake up motivated and say, I am so motivated to achieve this goal that I'm going to use this motivation to create a discipline plan that I'm going to stick to, and I'm going to write an unwritten contract, but I am going to never let myself down on this. I'm going to be determined enough that I'm going to do the uncomfortable thing every day. I'm just going to write it into my daily routine. It's a non-negotiable. I'm going to do it and I'm going to get it done. But with this newfound motivation that I have, which is emotional, and I'm excited about it and I want to get this done, instead of applying that to the action, I'm actually going to sit down and figure out how can I make this work for the long term with a discipline plan. Again, nobody talks about discipline because really it's not very exciting. But when you're motivated, it's easier to sit down and create a discipline plan for yourself and then just get the wheels in motion. Usually after the first day you've figured out your discipline plan, you have enough emotion left to get it started. But as that motivation wanes, you're gonna trigger and then you're gonna basically switch from motivation to discipline while you're maintaining that same track. So a lot of people miss this, and it's a real shame. But everything I've ever achieved in my life, and I'm very lucky, I'm very blessed, I've got a pretty nice life, and I couldn't be more grateful. But everything that's been positive that I've been able to achieve has been achieved over a period of time through discipline, right? I didn't get lucky. It wasn't through motivation. It was through discipline. It was through doing the uncomfortable thing for long enough that it achieved results. It is hot out here. I'm in Florida and it's 94 degrees, even though the sun's not beating down on my face. So, but I'm not editing this because this is real. So anyway, back to discipline, right? Take your discipline plan, put it in place, and then just make it the thing. And some people, they don't, when they think about discipline, they immediately get turned off. But I would argue that you're already doing one or two things in your life every day that take discipline, right? And maybe you don't enjoy doing those things, right? Good 80, 90% of the general public don't love their jobs, right? You've got to be really lucky to love your job. But the rest of us that don't truly love our jobs have the discipline in place to show up day after day after day. Because why, right? It feeds our family, it pays for our bills, you do the thing, right? The reward is a week or 2 weeks or a month away, right, between paychecks. So you keep going. So you have the discipline to do the uncomfortable thing. It's whether or not you want to apply it for something that is going to give you a personal reward, right? And some people will say, well, I don't have time. I would argue you absolutely have time because, again, everything I've ever done, I've had the time to do it. And I'm doing it now. And I have kids and I have a wife and I have a full-time job and all the things. And I have a long commute, right? But I'm still going to stick to my discipline plans. I'm going to do the thing. I'm going to show up and do it regardless of how I feel because I've already made the commitment to myself to get it done. And that's the difference. So motivation's awesome. Use it. But apply it to creating that discipline plan. Don't use it for the action itself, because if you use it for the action itself, you will eventually burn yourself out. It will become less exciting and you'll fall off the tracks, right? But if you apply it to a discipline plan and you still start your discipline plan with some of that motivation, and eventually, you switch tracks. You go from motivation. Once the motivation drops off, you've already established that discipline plan. You're already doing the thing, and you're just going to maintain it from here on out because you've already decided you're not going to let yourself down, and you're going to keep this contract with yourself, and you're going to keep going regardless, right? And I've done this. I've done this in my career. I've done it with weight loss recently, and I may even talk about that on another channel. I'm doing it now with my business here, right? So you have the ability to show up every day and do the uncomfortable thing. It's just whether or not you want to stack another thing on top of your already, busy life, all the other obligations that you have. So that's it, right? Motivation's awesome. Use it. But if the goal that you have depends on you keeping motivation in place forever, then you've really got to get some discipline in place, because that motivation isn't going to last. Unfortunately, if you depend on motivation entirely, you're ultimately going to fail, and you'll start back at square one, and you'll get on that hamster wheel again of starting and stopping and starting and stopping. Discipline is the only way through that. It's the only way to kick down that wall, right? So anyway, that's my rant for the day, and I hope you enjoyed it, even though I'm sweating buckets.